Hi there, welcome to another Excel tips video. I am Sumit Bansal, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to calculate the date difference in Power Query. So here, let's say if you have start date and end date, how to calculate the total number of days or months or years or working number of days in between these two dates. Now, before I show you how to do this in Power Query, there is a very simple concept I want to explain, which is how dates are handled by Power Query and how they're handled by Excel in the worksheet. Now, Excel has dates stored as numbers in the backend, and this is why you can add a number to a date or you can subtract or add two dates. But you cannot do the same thing in Power Query and expect a number, because in Power Query, dates are stored as a duration, and a duration which would have a days component, hours, minutes, and seconds component. So that is why we'll have to do a little bit more in Power Query to get the total number of days in between two dates. Now, let me start with a very simple example. So here I have this data set where I have the start date column and the end date column, and I want to get the number of days in between these two dates. Now, you can do this using a formula in the M code, and I will show you later in this example, but you can also use an option in the user interface, which is very easy. And if the days is only what you want in between two dates, then the user interface option is what you should be using. So here I'm going to select the end date column, then I would hold the control key and then select the start date column. And it is very important that you follow the same order. Start with the end date column and then select the start date column. If you reverse this, if you first select start date and then select the end date column, then the subtraction would also be reversed. Now, when these columns are selected, I would go to this add column tab, and here in date, I would select subtract days. And when I do that, it is going to insert a new column with the name subtraction, and then it is going to give me the total number of days in between these two given dates. Now, as I said that you cannot really subtract dates in Power Query because it returns a duration. So in this case, if you look in the formula bar, Power Query has automatically done the subtraction, but at the same time, it has also used this function called Duration.Days, which extracts the days component from the duration. So it does the entire heavy lifting for you and it gives you the result here. Now, one important thing to note here is that this value is not inclusive of both the dates. It excludes one of the dates. So if you want the total number of dates that includes the start and the end date, then you will have to add 1 to this value. Now, let me show you how to do the same thing using a formula in the M code. So here again, I have the same data set and I want to calculate the total number of days in between start date and end date. Now, this is something you can do with the user interface as I showed you in the previous section, but I will show you how to do this using a formula. And the reason learning how to write M code formulas is useful because it gives you a lot more flexibility and a lot more control. So in this case, I have these two columns. I would go to the add column tab and then click on custom column. And here in the custom column dialog box, it's asking for a new column name. So let's call it days, and then I would write the formula here. So in this case, let the formula be end date minus start date, and when I use this formula, it is going to be applied to each row in this data set. Now, as of now, if I click OK, it gives me the result, but this is not what I want. This gives me a duration. You can see it is 97 days, then 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 0 seconds. I only want the date part of the days part from here. So I would go back in this formula, and then I can wrap this in Duration.Days. So I can wrap this part in Duration.Days. So it is going to only extract the days from the duration. See what happens when I click OK? It gives me the right result. The data type is any, so you can change this, make it maybe whole number, and you have your result here. Now, the good thing about this method is that in this case, let's say you want to add a few days to it, or let's say you want to add get the result where both start date and end date are included, then you can go back here. So in the applied steps, if you click on this gear icon, it is going to open the custom column dialog box, and here I can just add 1. And now it is going to give me a value which includes days, including the start date and the end date. Now, let me show you another example. So here I have this data set where I have these due dates. Now, let's say I want to know what's the number of days in between due date and the date, today's date. So in that case, I can either use one single formula or I can insert a column that has current date, and then I can just use the previous method, which is end date minus start date, and then wrap it with between duration.days. So let's do that. Let me go to the add column tab, click on custom column, and here first what I want to do is insert today's date. So it's called date time.local now, and if I put parentheses around it, it is going to insert, and let's call this today. And now when I click OK, it is going to insert this column that has the date as well as the time component. Now I do not want the time, I just want the date here. So I'll go back here and then I can use a formula date.from. Okay, it removed the one that was already there. So let's write that again. And now when I click OK, it only gives me the date. Now I have the start date, now I have the end date here, and I can just do the simple subtraction. What you can also do in this case is, instead of me creating this column and then having another column that gives me the result, I can just have one entire formula in this case. So for example, here I can use due date minus this date. Now because I'm subtracting two dates, it is going to give me something which is a duration. So I can come here and I can add Duration.Days. And now when I click OK, it gives me the value, which is the difference between the due date and current date. You can see some of the days values are negative, which means that the due date has already passed and there are 11 days past due date. So this is again something that you can do easily with M code formula. This is something that you cannot do with the user interface. So it's a good idea to learn how to write simple basic M code formulas. So here I have this data set where I have the start date and the end date, and I want to calculate the total number of months in between these two dates. So let me show you the formula to do this. So I'm going to go to the add column tab here, then click on custom column, and I will have the formula. So I've already copied the formula, so I'll paste that formula here. Also, I'm going to give you this file so you can download this and you'll have access to all the examples and all the formulas so you can copy and paste and use them. Now in this formula, it's a pretty simple formula. What it does is it checks the year value of the end date and the start date, and it checks whether there is a difference or not. If it is the same year, then nothing happens. This gives us 0. But if the year changes, then it gives us 12. And then it does the same thing with the month values, checks the month value of the end date and then checks the month value of the start date. And then it is going to get the difference and then add it to whatever value came from here. So this is how, when I click OK, you can see it gives us this result where it would identify there are 3 months in between these two dates and there is 1 month in between these two dates. Now, one thing that happens with this formula is that in this case, for example, this is 30th January and this is 1st February. It is only a couple of days, but it gives us 1 month because the month number has changed. Here the month number was 1, here the month number is 2, and as soon as the month changes, this formula is going to give us it is going to count that as 1 month. Now, in many cases, this is exactly what you want, but in many cases, you may not want this. You may want to only get the month number if the month has completed. For example, if 30 days have completed because we started in January, or if it is in 31 month, 31 days month, then you want 31 days to complete. So in that case, we can use a separate formula. It is going to be a slightly longer formula because there's more logic to it. So here again, I have the same data set. I would go to the add column tab, then click on custom column. And here I have this formula that I'm going to be using. Now it's a simple formula, but let me quickly explain what it does. So it has S, which is the start date, E is the end date, and then I calculate the total number of months. This is just the same formula that we used earlier in the previous section, where it gets the year value of the start date and the end date, multiplies it by 12, and then gets the month value and then adds it. So this is going to give us the overall month value. Now, what we check is that if I add this month value to the start date, am I going to get a date that is less than the end date or more than the end date? For example, in this case, date.add months and then the start date and then the number of months. In this case, let's say I get the number of months as 10. So in this case, it would start at this date and then add 10 months and take me and give me a date which is 10 months starting from the start date, and then it is going to check whether the end date is less than that or more than that. If the end date is less than that, it means that the 10th month has not completed, so it should only give me 9 as the result. So it is going to subtract 1 from my result. But if it is more, the end date is more, then it is going to give me the actual result, which is M. It is not going to subtract 1 from it. So this is how there is a little bit of logic here, but this is how it is going to only give you completed months. So now when I click OK, you can see it gives me this result here, and in this case now it gives me 0 because the full month has not passed. So here I have this data set where I have the date of birth, and I want to calculate the total number of years that have elapsed between the date of birth and today's date. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extract the year value from date of birth and the year value from today's date, and then I'm going to subtract these two values. So in this case, let me go to the add column tab here and then click on custom column. Let's call this years. And then the formula that I'm going to use here is very simple. I'm going to first get the year value from the date of birth. So this formula is going to give me the year value from date of birth. If I click OK, you can see it inserts this new column, and 1990 and 1985, this is the year value based on the date. But then I want to also get the year value from current date and then subtract that year value, sorry, this year value, the date of birth year value, from current date's year value. So here I'm going to use this formula, date time dot local now, in parentheses. So this gives me the current date and time, but because I only want the date, I would use date from. So this is going to give me current date, and because I want the year value from this, I will use date dot year. And now if I subtract this value, this is going to give me the year value of the current date, and this is going to give me the year value of the date of birth. See what happens when I click OK? It gives me this result, which means that 36 years have elapsed between this date and current date. Now, this is fine, but there is one problem in this case, especially when you're calculating age, is that in this case, as soon as the year changes, it is going to count that as one. Just the same problem we had with months, because let's say my birthday is in December and month changes and January comes, it is going to count that as the completed year, although my birthday has not come already for that year. So this is going to count one extra year in that case. So if you do not want that, let me show you what formula to use. This is going to be a slightly more complex formula because the logic is a little more, just like the month case. So in this case, I would go to the custom column. Let's call this year, and here I'm going to paste the formula. Now the logic is exactly the same as we saw in the month case. It first calculates the current year value, which is this. So this is the formula that we used, where we had the year value from today's date and year value from the date of birth. Today's date is given from here, so this becomes a variable today. Then it feeds today into this, so this gives us the year value for today. This gives us the year value of the date of birth, and then it is subtracted and gives us the value. Let's say this is 36, and let's say my birthday comes in December. So this is not right because it should ideally be 35. Now what happens is, in this case here, it is going to check whether when I add 36 here, so if 36, this value is added to the date of birth, would it give me a date which is more than today's date, more than or equal to today's date, or less than today's date? So this is going to check that. So in this case, it gives me a value, and if that value is either equal to today's date or more than today's date, then the year has passed, my birthday is there, and this value is correct. Else it is going to subtract 1. So in that case, this value becomes 1 and it is subtracted. So this value, this entire thing becomes 1 in that case, and it is subtracted from y. If that does not happen, then this value remains 0 and nothing is subtracted. See what happens when I click OK? It gives me this result here, where these are the values, and let's compare. Let's say this is 34, and this value here, or this value here, this is July. Now right now I'm recording this video in June, which means that if this is the calculation, then this is the right value. But see what happens in 4a, this was 31, because as soon as the year changed, then it counted it as one complete year. But this is giving me the right result. In this case, it is giving me 30 because July has not yet come, so it cannot count that as one completed year. And in this final example, I have the start date and the end date, and I want to calculate the total number of working days in between these two dates. And let's say there are 5 working days, Monday to Friday, and Saturday and Sunday are non-working days. Now to do that, I'm going to add a new column. So I would go to the add column tab, click on custom column, and here I'm going to use a formula. Now this is the formula, and I'm going to give you this file so you can copy this formula. Let me quickly explain how this formula works. So in this case, first I want the total number of days and total number of dates in between the start date and the end date, so that I can analyze whether it is a working day or not. So that is given by the List.Dates function. Now this function is going to give me a list of dates starting with the start date. So I've specified this as the start date. Then I'm going to give it the total number of dates I want. And this is going to be given by this value. We have seen this value so many times in this video. This is going to give us the total number of duration. So duration.days, and within it I have end date minus start date. So this gives me the total number of days in between the start date and the end date. And I've added 1 because I want or both the start date and the end date to be inclusive. And then I'm saying the step value should be 1 duration 1, which means 1 day. So it is going to give me the dates starting from the start date. The total number of dates are going to be these many, and it is going to have an increment of 1 day. Now I have this list, but I want to now filter this list, so I only have the working dates, and that is done by using the list.select function. So whenever you see select in any function in Power Query, it means that we are filtering. So in this case, we are filtering a list, and the condition of that filter is going to be this here, where it says each Date.Day.of.Week. So this function, as you can see, it says it returns a number 0 to 6 indicating day of week. So here it is going to take one date at a time. So the underscore here represents these dates one at a time. And then day.Monday means that Monday is going to be the first day of the week. So Monday is going to be 0, Tuesday is going to be 1, and so on. It's less than 5 because 5 is going to be Saturday and 6 is going to be Sunday. So we do not want Saturday and Sunday. So this is only going to give us those dates that are Monday to Friday. The rest are going to be filtered out. So this gives us the list of those filtered dates. And then it's very simple. This gives us the count of that list. So now when I click OK, you can see it gives me this result, which means there are 70 days, working days in between these two dates. And there are only 2 working days in between these two dates. So this is how you can manipulate dates in Power Query, and you can calculate the total number of dates in between 2 given dates. These could be dates, these could be months, these could be years, or it could be the total number of working days in between 2 given dates. Also, let me know in the comment section if there is any specific section in the video you want me to explain further, so I can create a separate video on it. And I'm going to give you this file in the description so you can download it and use it. That's it in this video. I hope you found this useful. Thank you and have a nice day.